What is up, guys, and welcome back to another video. So in today's video, guys, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. In today's video, as opposed to the usual tips and tricks stuff, I'll actually be doing a chapter 3 items tier list, basically ranking every weapon and item that's currently in the game in chapter 3 season 1. I got this idea from a YouTuber named Parker DV, so if you want to check out his version, I'll also link that down below, and shout out to him for actually giving me the tier list. But with that said, be sure to drop a like if you enjoy the video, subscribe if you're new and want to see more, and let me know down in the comments if there's anything you would change on this tier list. Obviously, it's all just my opinion and I'm open to criticism. And finally, guys, if you want to help your boy out a bit extra, then consider using code Teckoh in the Fortnite item shop, as it's 100% free and it really does help me out a lot. But with that said, and without further ado, let's get into today's video. Alrighty, guys, so hopping here into the tier list, as you can see, we have all the new chapter 3 items. It doesn't include things like minis and stuff like that, and unfortunately it doesn't have like the Spider-Man thing because we don't know how long that's going to be, and it doesn't include things that were already in the game and kind of carried into chapter 3. This is mostly just the new stuff. But with that said, we're going to get right into the tier list. So the first weapon we have is the auto shotgun, and I already think that you guys know where I am putting this thing. D category, awful. This thing just does not do anything. Now, I know there are a few players who live and die by this shotgun and for some reason just really like it, and hey, good for you, but honestly, dude, I just cannot wrap my head around how anybody uses this thing. It basically has no damage from any range, and basically you just have to get in someone's face with it. To be completely honest with you guys, I will typically drop like a purple or gold auto shotgun for like a gray striker. Like, honestly, the striker is just that much better, and I don't feel like shotguns are very balanced. I will say though, this shotgun can be pretty decent if you just jump in people's faces, but for the most part, that's not a good strategy, especially with SMGs. At that point, you might as well just use your SMG and get in their face with that. So with that said, D category for the auto shotgun, awful category, though pretty much the worst weapon in my opinion, but hopefully they do buff it or make some adjustments to make it better. With that said though, getting into the next item, and this is a utility item, and this is the Guzzle Juice. So if you don't know, the Guzzle Juice is basically an item that you pop and it heals you basically up to full white HP. If you don't know the Guzzle Juice by now, basically what it does is it just reloads all your white HP slowly, kind of like a slurp juice, but only for your white HP. So it doesn't have any interaction with your shield. But with that said, in my opinion, this is a really balanced item and it feels like a healthy addition to the game. So I'm just going to put it in the good category. Like, it's nothing absurdly spectacular. It's not super OP. And personally, I don't carry it most of the time unless I have to. The only caveat to this is that it doesn't work in Storm. So if you're in Storm and you only have Guzzle Juices, it doesn't really do anything. So with that said, I think the good category, maybe the bottom of the good category leaning towards average, is pretty good. With that said, getting into the sniper, and honestly, this thing is just, I don't know if I want to put it in B or C. It's really not that OP. It's really not that spectacular. I don't know why they just don't have like the bolt action sniper with like just reduced damage, but I guess that's pretty much what this is. The one cool thing about this sniper is that it has 3 rounds per clip, but at the same time, it really just isn't that spectacular. So I'm going to put it at like, I guess the top of the bad category. Like, it's not horrible, but it's really not that strong. Personally, I'm just not even a fan of having snipers in the game overall, at least in like competitive game modes like arena. Like, when I go into arena and I just get sniped from across the map, like, I know that somebody obviously hit a snipe and whatever, but that is just like absurd to me. Like, I feel like in competitive modes you need to have the biggest skill gap possible, and I don't feel like you can do that with snipers when you can just snipe a good player from across the map. But with that said, even beyond that, it's really not that strong, and although it has 3 rounds per clip, I don't think it's anything spectacular, so I'm just gonna leave it here. Moving on though to the med mist, and honestly guys, this may surprise you, but I'm actually gonna put this in the S category, the top category. Now the reason I put this here is just that it's such a balanced item. Like, it's pretty much the only white heal that I would actually consider holding like for a whole game. The interesting thing about this item is that you actually have a certain amount that you can actually do. So you have like 150 health that you can heal. And honestly, I just feel like it's super balanced, but at the same time, it's really useful and it's just a great item overall. So overall, med mist, S category, insane. Moving on from that though, onto the MK7, and this is another item that is going straight into the S category, the top of the S category, actually, the top of insane. And I don't think I even need to elaborate on this. I mean, you got the mythic one, which is just absolutely absurd. Then you have all the variants, which even the common one is really overpowered. It has the sight, so it makes it super easy to aim. The recoil is pretty minimal. It's pretty easy to handle. And then the damage and fire rate are just off the charts for an AR. Like, if we're talking about things being balanced, it would be straight in the D category, but honestly, it's in the S category because it's just that strong. But I do think it's totally out of balance and definitely needs to be nerfed eventually. But with that said, getting into our next one, and this is going to be the Ranger AR. Honestly, with the Ranger AR, I'm not too sure because it's not like overpowered. It's not really that strong, especially when you compare it to the MK7, but it is a relatively balanced item. I guess the Ranger AR is literally just the embodiment of average. Like, it's just decent, I guess. It's not really that good. Like, when you look at the MK7 versus the Ranger, like, I will literally drop like a purple Ranger for a green MK7, no problem. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and act like the Ranger is like below the sniper or the auto shotgun. So I think the average category is pretty appropriate for it. It's really not that strong, down, but you can still get some good beams with it, and it honestly is decent in close range as well. I know that kind of sounds crazy, especially with the SMG in the game, but it's actually not that bad. So with that said, I think the Ranger AR is just straight average. Moving on to the Sidearm Pistol, and I don't even know what to say about this thing. I mean, like, outside of early game, you're not really carrying this at all unless you're just like a psychopath where you have like a gold or purple one. I'm not sure if it spawns in gold, so don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it does. But honestly, I mean, this thing just isn't bad, but it's just like I wouldn't carry it in mid game or end game or anything, so I guess I'm gonna put it in the bad category. I know I just said it isn't bad, but like, I mean, I don't want to put it in average because like I would obviously much rather carry a Ranger AR than a pistol, but honestly, the pistol is actually decent in close range as well. Like, I've actually had moments where I'd clutch up like a fight against like 2 or 3 people in early game with only a pistol, and honestly, the thing isn't that bad. Actually, guys, I am kind of leaning towards putting this in the average category. Yeah, I think I'm gonna put it in average, because when you look at close range with the pistol, it's actually not that bad at all. Like, you can genuinely get in someone's box and hit them for like 25, 50 a shot, and if you have good aim, like, you can make that work. Obviously, it comes nowhere close to the SMG, which is actually our next weapon, but it's still very viable, and honestly, it's not too bad. Like, it's just a straight up balanced weapon that just kind of exists. I think a pistol is always going to be one of those things in Fortnite that you're never going to be able to make it remarkable, but it's always like a good weapon and just like a regular weapon to have in the game. But with that said, guys, getting into the SMG. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. There we go. Oh my gosh, get in there. There you go. Top ranked weapon in the list. I mean, there's just no arguing against this thing, guys. It's just too overpowered. Like, you just walk in somebody's box with an SMG and they're instantly dead. Like, this thing does like 200 plus damage per second, even at like green or common rarity. The thing is just absolutely wild. I don't know what Epic was thinking making this entire meta and then putting the SMG in there, but hey, it's up to them, I guess. Yeah, guys, I don't really have that much to say about the SMG. It's just overpowered and it kind of exists. I would even go so far as saying that this thing really can't even be countered. I mean, this thing is just absurd, guys. If you get into somebody's box with it, especially if you have 2 of them and you can just like switch instead of reloading, this thing just deals absurd damage. It shreds through builds, and honestly, it's just great overall. Great as long as you're not on the receiving end of it. So with that said, S tier SMG, top ranked weapon on the list, just over the MK7. On to our second to last item though, and we've got the striker pump. Now this thing is really interesting because it's kind of like a makeshift version of the pump. Like, I would think like the makeshift shotgun almost, but a little bit better. And honestly, it is the most viable shotgun that we have at the moment, but it's really not that good, especially when you compare it to the SMG. Like, don't get me wrong, in an average meta, if we took it in like season 8 and replaced the pump with it, it wouldn't be bad, but right now with the SMGs just being so overpowered, like, it's hard to even justify carrying it sometimes. But I will say that you can deal some really solid damage with this if you have good shotgun aim and you utilize your ADS. So I am just going to put this at the top of the average category. It's just an average weapon. Like, it's decent, it's just a shotgun, but given the fact that you have these SMGs in the game, it's just hard to even use it. So with that said, I think it's an average weapon, and if the SMG was nerfed, then maybe I'd consider putting it in good. And finally, guys, we have a pretty anticlimactic ending. We have the tent. I don't really know why the tent is in this list. I guess it's technically a new item. I mean, I guess I'm gonna put it in the good category. I think it's a nice addition to the whole chapter 3 meta, to pubs and everything. I'm glad it's not an arena because obviously saving weapons for next game is kind of overpowered, but for pubs to hold onto a really good weapon or just to have something to show off, I think it's a nice little addition and doesn't really hurt anybody. So with that said, I guess that goes in the good category. But with all that said, guys, that's gonna wrap it up for the list. So if you want to see my selections, here is every single selection I made. In the S category, the best weapon we have is the Stinger, followed by the MK7, then the Med Mist. Then we've got the Guzzle Juice and the Tent in the good category. For average, we have the Striker Pump, we have the Ranger AR and the Pistol. For bad, we have the Sniper, which really just isn't that spectacular. And then for the awful category, the only thing we got there is the Auto Shotgun. I really hope they buff that thing, but for now, it's stuck in that category. But with that said, guys, that's gonna wrap it up for my chapter 3 weapons and items tier list. Let me know down in the comments what you guys thought of my rankings, as well as anything you think is better or worse than I said it was. If you enjoyed the video, then be sure to drop a like on it and consider subscribing as well if you want to see more content just like this in the future. And finally, it would really mean a lot to me if you could use code Teckoh in the item shop. It's 100% free for you and it really does mean a lot. But with that said, thank you all for watching this video though, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.